Hey, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Tuesday live stream where we talk about photography, and I do my best to answer any questions I can about particularly Olympus cameras, but any kind of photography things you want to talk about in general, I do my best. And also, I just like to catch up on what's new and how's everybody been doing. This time slot is God, I'm so sorry for starting so late. Uh, it's like I had a couple of nights where I've had to adjust my sleep schedule so I could go out with the photo club, the local photo club here. And it's been great for the last 5 or 6 weeks. Like I've been able to get up early and I've been getting up pretty regular every morning, like 5:30, 6 a.m. And then last week I had a day or two where I stayed up till, I don't know, late, 2, 3 in the morning. And I went right back to my old sleep schedule, like that. It's like my body clock just doesn't want to shift to the early morning hours, but I'm going to keep trying because getting up early is I just feel so much more productive in some ways. In other ways, by 9 o'clock I'm thinking, man, I've been up for 4 hours. What have I done? So sometimes I'm thinking, what's the point of getting up so early? But then other times I'm like, wow, look how much I got done in just a couple hours, and I got the whole day ahead of me to do other things, like take a nap or something. I don't know. It's it's been hard, but I'm gonna keep trying so I can be here for everyone at 7 in the morning. You guys are always here for me, I know, and I really apologize for that. I really do my best to uh, respect everyone's time, and and I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to just spend it with me. And in return, I do my best to, help you best I can. So, anyhow, let's see who's here. Nice small group. Awesome. Tuesday morning has never been a big group, but that's fine. Let's see. We have Marsha. Good. Is this the Marsha from Florida? Because there's a couple of Marshas. Well, actually, there's only one Marsha I can think of right now. It's here another one. Awesome. And Casper, good to see you. And Serge, Jeff Painter, John Softly. Oh, I'm so glad to see you, John. I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. Maybe I just haven't seen your name pop up. But you know, I was wondering. I was thinking about it Sunday. I was like, I haven't seen John Softly in a while or gotten an email in a while. So I hope everything's doing well. And you and your wife. I always enjoyed the emails I got from you. And John Yutse and John Follows. Awesome. Serge, Paul Celaru, Salaru. I think it's Salaru, right? Am I pronouncing that right? And why is there no chat coming up in my other window? Maybe if I refresh this, because that's where it ends. Oh, no, there's a down arrow here. Well, let me refresh and see. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. There it goes. Oh, that was weird. Um, yes, I'm awake, Marcia. Casper in Denmark. It's 1 p.m. and raining. Oh, we're gonna have a beautiful day here today. I mean, it's only gonna be like 40 degrees, but I think the sun's gonna be out and no wind. So I got some errands to run, but I really would like to get out and do some photography today. Feed the squirrels. Yeah, I need to put my bird feeder out because now that it's getting below freezing overnight, I know the birds need to eat a lot more to keep their body temperature up. So I bought some bird feed a couple of weeks ago. I need to start filling that bird feeder up, and then maybe I'll do some bird shots, backyard bird shots, right? And Roberto says editing takes up the whole day and night. You need an assistant. Oh, I know. I was thinking about maybe splitting my editing stream to a different day rather than doing it right after this stream. because it's hard because I know some of you like to just hang out for both, right? And that's 3-4 hours out of your day. Um, and sometimes you might decide to just pick one. I'll watch Rob chat, or I can Raj edit, you know, or just screw it, you know, I'm going to bed. I don't know. But I don't know. What do you guys think if I split it up to different days? Uh, you know, so I might only chat twice a week and edit once a week. Um, but the edits, wow, I'm getting so many edits in. It's taken me solid 2 hours, and I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Wow, Thomas Zazowskis, good to see you. It's minus 2 degrees Celsius there. So that's like, what, 28 degrees in Fahrenheit? And, oh, thank you, Solaru. So I got it right. I try. And Vitas, hello from Poland. Hi. Hi. And then Jim Jones, good to see you. And Marcel van Cotten Cothem from Belgium. Awesome. I saw I had to help my mom out with some stuff yesterday. I bought her one of those Wi-Fi extenders that do whole house. They're so freaking expensive, but I got a Black Friday deal. And I finally picked it up the other day. Uh, why the heck am I talking about that? Marcel, something about your name just triggered that memory from yesterday. Now it's a memory, right? Even though it was just yesterday. Uh, the heck? I don't know why I brought that up. Something about wireless. Anyway, if it comes back to me, I'll think about it. It's still early. I've been up for about a half hour, but I had to, you know, comb my hair, brush my teeth, and put a shirt on and this mic. But I got into my office here, and I used the EM1 Mark II to do my live streams, and I took it off yesterday because somebody had asked me a question about it. So I said, you know, that's a good question. So I had to take the camera off and go through the menus to figure out, you know, what it was with the EM1 Mark II that they had a question about. What was it? Um, oh yeah, the autofocus. This is interesting. I wonder if my EM1 Mark III does this. But the question was, Image Writer, you're in Russia? Really? Let me see if this does it. Oh, the M1 Mark III is a little better. But what on the M1 Mark II, you can turn off the, what's it called? Let me go on the menu, because it's on here too. It's in the C menu. C menu, C1, AF release priority for single point and continuous. And I have them both turned off right now. So what that means is the camera will not take a picture unless it thinks it has focus. And they were finding that, and this was on the M1 Mark II. So if I cover the lens like this with my hand, the lens, it should never acquire focus and never fire, right? You can see the little light come on. But they were finding that their EM1 Mark II was firing even though they had the lens release off. Let me put it in a single point and see what happens. Oh, as soon as I take my hand off, the camera takes a picture. Now it's like a 30-second exposure. So when that finishes, because it's so dark in here, for photography, it's relatively dark. I have not seen an EM1 Mark III in silver, Roberto. And you know the EM1 Mark II came in silver. I don't feel like I didn't like the M1 Mark II in silver. I like the M1 Mark I in silver. The problem I have with the silver now that they've been doing is they kept the buttons black, which I would have preferred if they did it all silver. Like the EM10s are like all silver on top. But the M1 Mark II, they used the same black buttons. But the M1 Mark I was all silver, so I like that. I kind of just like that aesthetic a little better. Like my Pen F, right? Did this finish? No, it's 1 minute exposure. Now it's doing noise reduction. But yeah, I like this all silver aesthetic, and then just a little splash of red, you know, some bling for the camera. You know, it's all personal preference. It's very subjective, right? Okay, and let's see. I did not know you were from Russia, Image Writer. That's awesome. And the hot shoe comes in silver on the M1 Mark III. Yep. I know, right? Some cameras, they black that out. Like, I think my OM1 or my OM2 film camera, they blacked out the hot shoe. And the Fuji is blacked out. And the M5 Mark III, or, yeah, no, this is the Mark II, is blacked out. Where's my M5 Mark III? That's an interesting observation that the M1 Mark III, even though it's a black camera, they have a silver hot shoe. Curious. And it's not quite as flush as it is. Hmm. Out a little. I guess it has to. It's a small camera. But, you know, on the Pen F, it's flush, right, with the top. Not perfectly flush, but it's much flatter, right? See the Panasonic. Yeah, the Panasonic is just like the Pen F. It's flush on top. Where's my EM? Oh, duh. My M5 Mark III up here is black. Wow. I never noticed that before, and I'm usually good at noticing things like that. Okay. So I was talking about the continuous autofocus. So let me put this in single point autofocus. That, my dying eyes, I can't see. How come? There it is. Let's see. Oh, it took a picture. It's not supposed to. But even though I had my hand over the lens and I had autofocus release off, it took 3 or 4 seconds, but it decided it had focus and took a picture. So that is kind of a, I don't know, I wouldn't call that a bug because it did take 3 or 4 seconds before it decided to take a picture, but really it should never take a picture, right, in practice. So that's why whenever you hear me talk about the continuous autofocus release, turn that off, you know, I try to be very careful in my language, and I would always say the camera will not take a picture unless it thinks it has focus. Now, why it thinks it has focus when I do that, I don't know. But it's not unique to the M1 Mark II, I should say. I could try it on my other cameras, but then I got to find batteries and everything. So, the M1 Mark II is blacked out, Jim Jones says, and the silver shoe looks cheap. Yeah, I don't mind it. It's easier to see, but I get your point. My EM1 Mark II, it's blacked out for the most part. It's a little worn out now. I used to use flash a lot on that camera. You know, so I had a radio trigger in there or a flash all the time. Same thing with my EM1 Mark III is my professional camera now that I use for my work, and Yeah, this always has a trigger or flash on it, so it would be scratched off by now anyway, more or less. And Image Rider says, don't you remember the Instagram mystery signs on the show in Siberia post? I don't remember. It rings a bell, but I don't remember. I'm sorry. Like I said, I have a hard time remembering what I did one day ago. It becomes a memory that can get lost very quickly. And the only reason I can remember a few things about Olympus menus and stuff like that is because I do it every single day. So it just kind of, you know, burns in. But man, if something happens and then the next day it doesn't happen again, like it never happened. I don't know. Silver seems non-pro, maybe. Maybe. Like I said, it's all subjective, right? I never noticed it before. The silver hot shoe. The silver hot shoe. Um, I think I'll put a poll up and see how many people notice that this hot shoe is silver on the M1 Mark III, and if they care. I don't know. I mean, it's a stupid poll, but why not? You know, life has got to can't always be so serious, right? Uh, yeah, sorry, snow. Image Rider said the mystery signs in snow. Yeah, I don't remember. I'm sorry. And Marco says Ollie went with the silver hot shoe on the M3 because of complaints the black chipped and flaked and looked terrible after some use. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that makes sense because there's a lot of photographers where, like myself, I always use flash in my work. Because, you know, I do architectural photography, and when I'm indoors, I have to use flash, you know. Once in a blue moon, I think maybe twice in the last 4 years, I've used flash outside on a building. Um, and it didn't work, so I just didn't bother doing it anymore after that. But I've seen some photographers use flash outside on a building, but they were using very powerful lights. The light I had just wasn't going to cut it. I have a 200 watt, right? 8200, and it wasn't bright enough for, you know, and it was like 11 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning, so the sun was out. But I was trying to mitigate some of the shadows, the dappling light coming off this tree onto the front of the property, and it kind of worked. I mean, partially it's my skill set. I never, you know, if I had a better skill set for doing outdoor flash with a property, I probably could have got that to work, but I just failed miserably, and I haven't tried again since. I just take a picture of the outside of the property regardless of the light now. You know, it's always daytime, but then it could be cloudy, could be dapply light on the building, could be harsh sun, you know, with harsh shadows. So what I try to do is when I get to the property, I look at it and I say, well, I'm going to be in here about an hour. Let's see what happens in an hour. Like if it's cloudy out, I'll wait an hour. Like I'll do the inside first, then come outside, and it may improve. And vice versa. Sometimes the sun is out, and I'm like, this is the perfect time to do the outside first, and then I can go inside, and it doesn't matter what happens after that. So, and that's the advice I give a lot of times to uh, people that ask me, you know, is what's the question they would ask me? Um, well, I always tell people, you know, if you can control the time of day you can go to a job, if it's going to be an outside job or inside, it doesn't really matter too much. Unless you're in a cave, then yeah. But if you're like inside of buildings, light still comes in, right? From outside through the windows and things. But I just tell people, you can control the schedule of when you're going to go onto a job a little bit and the day. Try to schedule on a day when the weather's nice, you know, and you have good light, good ambient light outside. then you can mix ambient light and flash pretty well with outdoor ambient light. If you don't have any control, then definitely make sure you bring your flash with you to balance out the lighting and the white balance and everything. For professional shoots, you know, I mean, you should always bring your flash with you anytime you go out on a professional job, really. But yeah, since in architectural photography that I do, I usually have a little control over the schedule. Like an agent will call me and say, you know, I need a picture of this property. And I'll be like, well, it's going to rain tomorrow and it's raining today. How about I go on this other day? And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, it's okay, go in a couple days. It's not a rush when the weather's nicer. But once, you know, like I said, that there's once in a while where, no, I need to get this out right away. So I have to go when it's raining, you know, or it's cloudy, or when the weather might not be ideal, which is what happened to me the other day. I was eating popcorn last night, so little kernel, I'm sorry. But so, whatchamacallit? So yeah, you can't always have control. When you don't have control, you don't have any choice, and I have to go when it's raining. And then I do sky replacement now, right? For the outside shots. And the indoor shots, you know, I close the window blinds or I do whatever, you know, I need to do to make the inside look the best it can. All right. And let's see. Roberto says your OMD video, your first, or no, you mean my last. Okay, because it just says LST, right? So I don't know if you mean first or last, but your last OMD video is great. Maybe think EM5 over EM1 might be best for me. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's all there. I tried to cover everything. I left out a couple of things on the EM1X because I don't own that camera. So yeah, I definitely missed out that EM1X adds GPS and dual UHS-2 slots. But I didn't really talk about the card slots other than saying this one has 1, this one has 2. Because they all have UHS-2, but the EM1X has dual UHS-2 and GPS, which is pretty significant. Then there's other minor things that are different across the brands, right? Or different across the models. The EM10 Mark II has the smallest EVF, EM5 Mark III a little bigger, EM1 Mark II a little bigger, and then the EM1X a little bit bigger than that, right? Or the magnification anyway. So there's very, very minor differences there that I didn't get into, because if you really want to talk about every difference between the cameras, you know, that it would be like a 5-hour video, right? So I did compromise a little bit on some of the features that I wouldn't call them insignificant, but there weren't enough differences between one camera to the next in those particular features, you know, having one UHS-2 card versus 2. That seemed like a very small thing. Like the EVF is slightly larger on this one. You know, it may or may not be a big deal to some people. That might be a decision point. I know it was for me. Actually, having a larger EVF was a big deal for me when I was shooting Nikon. And that was the primary reason I went from APS-C Nikons to full frame, because I wanted that larger EVF. Because, you know, the APS-C, the EVF is a little smaller. It's not because I wanted the full frame sensor, it's just because I wanted the bigger EVF. And now that we're shooting mirrorless, it's irrelevant, you know. And John Yutse says, never understood white, red, tan cameras. Yeah, it's just, you know, I guess cameras are supposed to be, they tried to make them stylish or fashion accessories like the pens. You know, if you watch any reviews on the pen PL8s and 7s and stuff, they gave those to channels that were generally had nothing to do about photography, but to these other kind of creators that talk about fashion and clothes. Um, they'll give them a camera for free, and then you know, people like me have to like buy their own cameras. Uh, yeah, the M12 is blacked out. The silver hot shoe looks cheap. Yeah, the black shoe gets worn faster. Yes. Oh, I'm going backwards on my text here. I'm sorry. Is it not refreshing again? It's not refreshing again. I might have to close. Let me close this and reopen this. Hopefully that'll work better. Uh, Ollie went from silver. Okay, yep, I was there. It's still not refreshing. Oh, Ulf, hi. How are you, Ulf? I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you back. And good morning, Joe. Let me see. Ganatello. Awesome. In Ohio. Wow, I think you're in the same time zone as I am, though. I was a little surprised by that. Right now it's like 7:40 a.m. Is it 7:40 over there too? And good morning, David. And Rick, hi, how are you? He says, my boss used to tell me to make a flash gun and then let the client see lots of flashes. Clients equate flashes to pictures and they think you're working harder even if you don't need the flash. Oh, that's funny. And David Crook says YouTube just crashed on him. Look at my stream health. Everything looks good on my end. Wow, there's a lot of people here all of a sudden. That's awesome. Normally I don't have this big a group on Tuesday morning. In almost every industry, you'll find bosses who appreciate the hard work more than the final result. Yeah, that's true. Um, you know, if you're a sincere worker, you know, and you put an honest day's work in, that's much more valuable than um, you know, doing excellent work, but then not all the time. You know, you're not giving 100% the whole day, right? Like yeah, I'm a morning person, right? So by afternoon, yeah, I'm dead. So I don't I would not be an ideal employee versus somebody that, you know, they come into work and, you know, from clocking in to clocking out, they give 100%. That's definitely worth more, I think, to most employers than somebody like me that comes in and, yeah, I get up to speed and then after lunch, I'm like, you know, okay, that's it. And yes, you are in the same time zone. Good. And Ulf says, I see your live streams afterwards. Sometimes you're streaming in the middle of the night. It's 1:42 in lunchtime. Oh, good. And that's why I started this stream at this timeline. Because there's a lot of people that are watching afterwards, which is great, but it's not as fun as being here live, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. You gotta be prepared for anything, right? Oh, hey Walter, how are you? Say hi to Deb for me. And uh, and Rick says quantity, not quality. Yes, quantity, not quality. That's another way to look at it, right? I think it's more about consistency, right? Consistency is a lot more important than um, the opposite of that, irregularity. Because really, think about most things in life. You don't want to be a regular, especially as you get older. You don't want to be a regular, because that's what you think about sometimes. Was I regular today? But I think it's more about consistency versus irregularity. than it is quantity over quality. Because yeah, nobody wants bad quality. Because if you have a bad employee, yeah, they're coming in 100% every day doing bad work, that's a problem. I get that. But if they come in and do their best and they're doing good work, doesn't have to be excellent. I would rather have somebody that was more consistent and reliable than someone that was great, but then, you call them up and they're late for their live stream. Which is, like me, right? I'm always late. Nobody ever hire me, trust me. Hire me for a job. I'll be on time for a job, but man, everything else in life, I'm more of the quantity guy. I try to be more consistent than, I don't know. Now I'm confused, but that's what I was getting at. And Walter is here. He's a good friend of mine. We've known each other a long time, and he actually helped me a lot in my photography when I was getting started back in 2012. And that's why I got into Nikon, because he shoots Nikon. I actually bought a Sony camera. I didn't buy Nikon, but I got into Nikon after messing with my Sony camera. I didn't like it. I bought it for all the same reasons that most people get into buy things, right? You do your due diligence, you research things, and if you know nothing about photography, which I knew very little, you look at the specs, and like at the time, the Sony seemed pretty solid. Small, compact, lightweight, mirrorless. And in 2012, there wasn't a lot of choices. There was still Olympus, Panasonic, but I didn't know anything about them. And so I ended up buying, I remember I think the Olympus EM1 Mark I was out. Because I thought about buying another camera, or maybe when I was first shopping. Anyway, it was $1,000 at the time, which was, in my mind, I was like, my God, why would somebody spend so much money? Why is this hobby so expensive? Right? I was just shocked at the pricing when I got into photography. And, but anyway, he helped me out a lot in the beginning, so I'll always be grateful for that. And yeah, the Sony NEX was my first Sony, Walter. And I do have a Fuji point and shoot. I have some Canon point and shoots before that. I have a lot of these little point and shoot cameras that I bought in early 2000 to just take pictures, because we didn't have camera phones and all that back then. But I wasn't into photography. I was into the gear. I was like, man, look how small and compact this thing is. I still have them all downstairs on a shelf. My Canon S100s, I have two of those. I have the Fuji F10, and I have two other Fujis. If you guys have been following my channel a long time, you've seen the Fujis that I have, the little compact ones. And they all still work amazingly. And I still have the freaking boxes for them, like new in box almost. But back then I just was more into the gear, and I did take a few pictures with them, but I didn't. And I used them a lot back in early 2000s for travel, just personal use, like most people, most consumers, right? You don't buy them because you're into photography. You just want to capture some moments and save some memories in your life. And that's why I bought those. And I wanted just something really small and compact to take with me. And then when I got into digital photography in 2012, meaning interchangeable lens photography, I got a Sony NEX. That was my first interchangeable lens camera, was a Sony. And I used that for almost a year before I just said, I don't like it. It didn't feel like a camera to me. It just felt like a piece of technology. And I think that has held up to this day, where when you pick up a Sony, it's just a piece of technology. Doesn't feel like a camera. And that's why I went to Nikon at the time, because the Nikons, they have great grips, and the EVF was optical. And I just said, this is a lot more enjoyable to go out and shoot, right? For me at the time, I just really loved shooting with an optical EVF. And then I got into shooting with vintage glass with my Nikon. So I bought a bunch of old, Nikon glass that was made for their film cameras. And then, and then, you kind of get carried away. You start buying all the big expensive glass. I had the whole Sony Art Lens Trinity, and I have I just had so many lenses for Nikon, and it's getting big and heavy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go camping this weekend or whatever, and then I gotta carry this big, 20, 30 liter backpack to take all my stuff with me. I don't want to do it. So I went to the store and I bought the EM10 Mark II, and I didn't even research or anything, right? I just went to the camera store and just said, I just need a smaller camera that takes good pictures. Uh, and it was between the EM10 Mark II and the Fuji X-T10 at the time. And I put them side by side and I said, the Olympus is a little smaller, you know? I said, I think I'll just take that one. I didn't even look at like sensor size or anything like that. I was totally focused on the small, compact, lightweightness of the camera. Because I knew at the time, I was like, they'll both take decent pictures. They don't have to be perfect. And that's how I got started in Micro Four Thirds, was the EM10 Mark II. That was my very first Micro Four Thirds camera. And I was just so impressed with the images. Um, I was like, you know what? When I go on my paid jobs, I don't have to take this, 20-liter backpack with me to go do a photo shoot. I can just take a little, small bag with a couple lenses and I'm good. And that's how I got started and have been basically a Micro Four Thirds shooter ever since. Um, but yeah, so Walter and I have known each other a long time, and he's recently, not recently, but he's started his own YouTube channel, and he puts time into it when he can. But he's thinking about doing some live streaming as well. So go to Walter Rowe Photography's YouTube channel, and he's a Capture One affiliate or user and professional photographer. Um, so he doesn't have a lot of time to spend on the channel itself, but when he does, he gives it 100%. Uh, and so he's gonna do some photo editing live streaming with Capture One, I believe, like once a month. So not every not every day like I do, and I think we're trying to set up a time where he can be a guest on my channel. So I'm thinking Tuesday next week. I'm going to start a little later uh, to fit his schedule on Tuesday, but I think I'll have him on Tuesday next week. It's still about tentative, but just watch, look in the community tab and uh, subscribe, hit the bell notification, all that stuff on my channel. And you'll see notifications for when my live streams come up, but in particular the one with Walter. So that that'll be good, because I don't use Capture One myself, but I know a lot of people do, and I thought it'd be just another a thing that something I can't offer on my channel really, because I don't use Capture One, but to give you guys another outlet and an introduction to Capture One. And photo editing with something other than Olympus Workspace or Lightroom or something, right? Okay. Let me make sure this chat window's working. And Walter says, you should create a little set of all your digital point and shoot cameras. That should be a neat pic. I do have a pic of it actually on my shelf. Um, yeah, David says, film days with cameras were fairly cheap, but all the money went to film and processing. Yeah. And Walter said, you should, oh, sorry, I read that. And yes, the Sony was my first. Giuseppe uh, asked me when I started with Olympus. So It was, I believe, 2016 with the EM10 Mark II. So I already told that story, just inadvertently answered your question. But in terms of year, yeah, 2016 is when I started. And it was very casual. It wasn't for professional, but within a year, I converted over to Olympus and started shooting professionally with it instead of my Nikons within a year. Probably 6 months. I'll have to see when I bought my first I bought a 7 to 14 millimeter lens for my architectural stuff for Olympus, and that's when I officially started using it professionally. I don't know exactly when I bought it, but I think it was within 6 months of getting the Olympus camera. And good morning, Music Sound Gear. Good to see you. And question for the chat and or Rob. I have the 42.5 f1.7 for Panasonic. I tried to sell it locally, but after 3 weeks, nothing. I only have Olympus bodies and I'm an amateur beginner. I'm not sure what the question is though. Oh, wait, it's on the next line. Sorry. Should I continue trying to sell it so that I can get the Olympus? No, I wouldn't bother. The Panasonic is fine. I can't think of too many situations that the Panasonic wouldn't work just as well as the Olympus. If someone else knows, chime in, but I don't see any reason to sell it. I mean, you don't do video work at 42 millimeters anyway, generally, so I can't even, I know for video, the autofocusing is a little different on Panasonic lenses. It's not as consistent, or it's slower, or it's not as reliable. But for photography, Panasonic lenses are fine 99.9% of the time. Sometimes there's a firmware update to fix some compatibility issues or some other minor issues with the lenses. But generally speaking, you're fine. And good morning. So Jeff Painter says, I'm all Olympus except for the Sony RX100 Mark IV, as it's very compact and good quality. Yeah, I was very tempted to get a 1-inch sensor camera. Like when the Canon G7 Mark III or Mark II came out, I was very tempted by that for vlogging, not for photography, but I was looking for something even smaller than my EM10, right, to do vlogging and do photography, street photography at the same time. Because it had a mic jack, the stabilization was okay, and the 1-inch sensor is better than the little 2/3 inch sensor that I had in my TG5. Because I did get the TG5 to do like street photography. Um, for times when I didn't want to carry a big camera like an EM10. So I looked at the G7X and then I just changed my mind. I said, you know what? It's not really that much smaller than um, my Olympus's. It was kind of in between like a TG5 and an EM10. So I said, you know, um, maybe get the LX100 from Panasonic, because I did look at that. That had a better lens on it. But ultimately, my favorite little compact now is missing in action. Why isn't it right here? Well, that's not good. It was my favorite camera. Now I can't find it. Why? It must be in my other camera bag. Well, anyways, the Olympus XZ2. Where is it? Oh, I used it as a prop in my other video. So it's out on the table. But yeah, the Olympus XZ2, very compact and great little lens. It has a like a 24 to 100 f2 1.8, or it has a great lens on it, and it has a slightly larger sensor, 1/1.7, tilt screen, flash, hot shoe. It's really the perfect compact camera. They just don't make them like that anymore, do they? Well, I guess Sony does. The RX100, they're great little compacts. And Joe Genatello says, I had the same issue with Nikon, had all big heavy lenses and never wanted to take it out. Photography was not fun. Yeah. Yeah, trust me, what was really my turning point was after I got my 150 to 600 bazooka lens. And I had to buy a separate case to carry it, you know. Um, After a few trips like that, it was shortly after I bought that lens that I bought the Olympus EM10 Mark II. And John Allen says, I'm trying to use my Sony A7R II more, but normally pick up the Olympus. Yeah. I've had that Panasonic S5, but I don't have much desire to take it out to shoot photography. I'd much rather take my Olympus. Thomas Sizowska says, what is the jagged discoloration in the areas of highlighted saturated, in the areas of highly saturated darker color like a polarized blue sky or a vivid flower? My JPEG settings are at default, but the same effect appears in RAW. Okay, that is called banding, basically. Uh, so what you can do is you can try setting your JPEG to superfine JPEG. That may help a little bit because they're much larger files, and uh, that may help with some of the banding you're getting if it's in the JPEGs. But you're saying it's and the same effect appears in RAW. But the banding is because the camera's not able to um, dither between the different colors from, like if it's your example is saturated darker colors, like a polarized blue sky. Yeah, like in a sky, right? Um, you can have a very dark blue sky. The luminance is a little bit low, or the brightness is low. I forget the difference between luminance and brightness, but um, yeah, you might get some banding because the transition from one color to the next, because from dark blue to light blue, those are all different colors. It's not blue. It's a bunch of different colors in there between red, green, and uh, blue on your sensor, because our sensors use, RGB. So there's different values of red, green, and blue. So it's not able to transition between one color to the next. And I guess I don't really have a problem with banding in my raw images. I do see it time to time in my JPEGs, but you'll notice it more when you start to post-process your skies, right? And this is probably where Walter will have a much better answer about dithering between colors. Um, but in post-processing is when it most becomes very obvious sometimes. When you start pushing and pulling the highlights and shadows, you might start to see that banding. It happens very quickly in a JPEG image, but even in a raw image, you can start to get that kind of banding because it's the post-processing software is not dithering the colors, smoothly for you. So that's where post-processing software can make a difference in controlling those kinds of artifacts that you would get in a photograph. And it happens to every camera, whether it's, full frame, medium for, it happens less in cameras that have better dynamic range, but at the same time, it's still going to happen because we're limited to 12, 14-bit files. So there's almost no difference between a 12-bit and a 14-bit file when it comes to trying to correct for those kinds of problems. So, like I said, it doesn't matter the camera, it's going to happen. It happens to everybody. Um, so, like I noticed in Workspace, even in Lightroom, I did see some banding with my files, whether it was my Nikon or my Olympus. I haven't tested my Panasonic, but that's what it is basically. It's not able to dither the colors quite as well. So what you can do is if you can search for videos on YouTube about search for banding, right? And post photo processing and banding, photo editing and banding, and reducing banding. Um, a lot of videos will come up about doing videos because it happens a lot when you're recording like videos, not as much in photos, but it does happen a lot in photos. So you can watch that to get a little better understanding. I didn't really articulate that too well, but that'll give you a little better understanding of what's happening when you see that banding, and then ways that you might be able to correct for that a little bit. Oh, see, if I read your second line, you answered the question already. You can remove it mostly by desaturating and adding a bit of medium blur. That's what I meant by post-processing software. They do this dithering, which is doing some combination of like desaturating and blur, right? uh, you're just doing it manually, but some software have algorithms to kind of help with that. And I'm missing a question. I had the same issue with Nikon. Uh, and Robin, Robin in for a little bit. Good morning. Oh, hi. Good morning. Is Robin here? Robin Wong? And sometimes he comes in because this is a good time slot for him too, right? Uh, John Allen said, just ordered the Panty 35 to 100 f4 to 5.6, tiny thing on eBay. Yeah, I've seen images from it. They look good. During my photo editing live stream, I think I've seen a few images with that lens. They were great. And Elka says, looking for a low budget wide angle lens for my Olympus EM10 Mark II for landscape and unusual pictures. Uh, believe it or not, the 9mm body cap lens is $99. It's actually pretty good for landscapes and unusual pictures. It's an f8, so it does have to be pretty decent light, or you have to be on a tripod so you can use longer shutter speeds. So keep that in mind. But I would recommend that. Another option would be the wide angle adapter for the kit lens. If you have the 14 to 42 kit lens, that not the pancake zoom, but the regular one, the R version, they sell like a $99. I paid 50 for mine used, $50, but they have a wide angle converter and a fisheye converter for that lens. And those are good options that are very affordable and have great, so you'll be able to keep autofocus and a relatively fast aperture. So I think if you have the 14 to 42 kit lens that zooms in and out, not the pancake power zoom, that would be a good option. If you want an actual lens, all-in-one lens, the 9 to 18 from Olympus is really good. But did you say you need to be on a budget? Hold on. Low budget, yeah, that's not really low budget though, right? That's a $500-600 lens. Some people buy the manual focus lenses. Uh, so any, excuse me, any of the generic brand manual focus lenses, I think Mikey is one, and Samyang, they have some very wide angle lenses, 7, 8, 9, 7, I think a 7.5. Some of them are fisheye, so maybe you don't want the fisheye effect. It can be corrected in post-processing. Uh, but I would say, if you're trying to get under 12 millimeters, and you want to be on a budget, you have to look at sort of the generic brands. Um, and a lot of them are fisheye, which you'll have to correct for in post-processing. But I would start with maybe just a body cap lens, the $99, or the adapters for your 14 to 42 kit lens. Those are great budget options. And robtrek, I have the Canon G5X2 with the 1-inch sensor. I got it over my Sony RX. I got it over the Sony RX because it's faster lens. Pocketable, I'm very happy. Yeah, I was very close, John, to the G7X Mark II or 3, whatever the latest one is. Very close to getting that. I actually like the grip on it. It was a very organized. Canon got the ergonomics right on the tiny little camera. They got it right on that camera. And then Joe says, yes, Walter has the same D810 and Sigma 24 to 105. Great lens, but heavy and not the run. Yeah, I had the 24 to 105 f4 from Sigma. I had the 50 f1.4 art lens and the 18 to 55, and I had, oh my God, yeah, Sigma. Oh my God, they're so heavy, those frickin' lenses. And then let's not go there. So I ended up buying a 50 millimeter pancake lens for my Nikon, which I busted, but manual focus. And then I got the 50 millimeter D lens, which is, relatively small. And the pictures were fine. And John Yutse says, if I did video, I think the Sony RX would be better, but I just do stills. Possibly. I mean, video is pretty limited on most of the Olympus cameras, and most cameras, they're mostly 4208-bit video. So you can do good video on just about any camera. And Jimmy Chang has just posted a video on possible Pen F Mark II. I have no insight on that. Like I said, he's probably reading the same rumor I did about a Pen F2 in discussion. But that would be cool. And yeah, I'm trying to catch up on all my buddies, well, buddy, but my fellow colleagues here on YouTube that do Micro Four Thirds, Olympus in particular. I haven't seen this one from Jimmy. I just watched one from Robin this morning about why he doesn't do autofocus. And then the things you said about the TG56 to turn off noise reduction and more, does that count? Yes. Believe it or not, it shouldn't. It should not make any difference to the raw file making those changes. But when I was pixel peeping my raw images, I'm going to have to do it again. But when I was pixel peeping my raw images, because I was testing it, I was like, well, this won't make any difference in my raw images, right? And it did. I don't know why. I don't know why. So I'm going to have to really, really analyze that to find out what the reason is that it was affecting my raw images. maybe it was my mistake, right? When I was editing the images, maybe I didn't look at them right or import them correct. I don't know. Maybe there was some user error on my part that it was affecting the raw images. But the advice that I gave the other day, I think still stands regardless of what the problem is on my end. Uh, but yeah, it did. I can't tell you. I can't. It doesn't make any sense to me because those sharpening, contrast, all those controls are for JPEG processing only, right? They should not affect the raw image. But on my TG5, it did. And I can't explain. I'm gonna have to work on that. I'll try to give you a little more definitive answer for that by the next stream, maybe next week on Tuesday, or maybe this Sunday. By this Sunday, I'll try and give a more definitive answer on that. Because I'm gonna have to go take it out and shoot with it and do some, do some hardcore analysis about why I'm seeing that effect. Because when I forget who asked me, they asked me, what I recommend. It was Michael Ham, right? Mike Ham asked me, what settings do I recommend on the TG5, TG6? And, I said, yeah, contrast, sharpening, all this. And it should not have, but I didn't distinguish that, raw JPEG, right? Because normally the answer is it doesn't affect your RAWs. But on that camera, for some reason, it did in my experience. But I never took the time to dive into or do any analysis of why that was the case. Was it the camera doing it, or was it something I'm doing wrong when I import the images, or something? There's a break in the logic there somewhere, because that should not happen. It should not affect your raw images by adjusting contrast, saturation, all that stuff in the camera. Those are for JPEG only type pictures. So I'm sorry. I'll definitely make an effort this week to look into that more though. So by Sunday I'll have a better answer. Okay. Um, and Rick Bear says, robtrek and I will need to talk about our bank managers. We both need a Pen F Mark II. I know, right? Oh, it's the word that a Pen F2 is coming out is really affecting my my purchase decisions for Christmas. So I'm buying stuff for the gifts that I want to give to everybody first. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to need money for a Pen F2. So maybe cut back a little bit on this or that. I don't know. I mean, every year feels like a lean Christmas for me lately. I don't know. Because I used to contract. I had a decent contract before. It was not photography related. That ended like, 2 years ago. And so the last 2 years, I've had to rely on strictly my photography income and YouTube income. And that's starving artist type money. Luckily, I saved a few bucks, and I can get by. But yeah, there's definitely not a lot of money in either one right now for me, and it's my fault. I could work a lot harder and make a lot more. Maybe sometimes you give 110% and you're not right for this job. You're not going to make any money at it. maybe that's the problem. Maybe I shouldn't be in photography. When Rick and I used to email a lot, he said I should be in education or consulting about education and things like that. Um, which it's crossed my mind time to time, but I don't have any degrees or anything. I have no credentials to speak of in education, uh, other than my YouTube channel now, right? I could say, well, you could look at my YouTube channel, all my educational videos. If you like those, then maybe I'm a right fit. But I can't get into the idea of actually working for somebody or having a job. My entire life, really, up in 1994 was the last time I had a real job. And ever since then, I've been self-employed, one fashion or another. Uh, and yeah, I live very modestly. I mean, there was a small window where I had tremendous success, right? Uh, just living large, you know. But for the most part, my life has been a train wreck, and I've been living very modestly for a long, long time. And I'm content with that, right? It's a luxury most people don't have the benefit of to live the kind of lifestyle that I do because I'm single, no kids. I'm not accountable to anybody, and it really gives me a lot of freedom. And you know, as a parent, as many of you are parents, you wouldn't trade this life for yours at all, right? It doesn't, you know. And honestly, as a single, not married person, I would sometimes consider trading my life for one of yours, right? Because some of you have led some amazing life and have done amazing things in your life. And you know, from the emails you guys send me, you know, you tell me your stories and what you used to do and stuff, and it's always fascinating to read what you guys all do. My life is very, very mundane compared to many of you, and sometimes I figure I could definitely would not be unhappy if I were married or had kids or um, you know, whatever, had a day job. You know, it wouldn't make me unhappy. It might make me happier. But unfortunately, I don't have that opportunity anymore, right? Like, I'm too old to have kids and single. So, you know, if you're single, you're not going to get married. I had a girlfriend or something, maybe, you know, I could think about that. Uh, but on the other side, like I said, being single, no kids gives you a lot of freedom and opportunity uh, that a lot of you don't have, right? But don't you know, don't envy me. Trust me. Uh, there's you know, it's because I envy you, right? If you have your kids and you're married and all of that good stuff and have a job, make money, I'm envious of you guys in that sense a lot of times. But I saw some comedian, they were talking about how, uh, you know, a married guy is walking down, you know, and he sees this bum sleeping on a bench and he's looking at that guy and he's envious of that guy. Just all the freedom he has because he's not married, no kids, all of that. And it's just funny. It's that scenario. The grass is greener on the other side, right? The grass is always greener, I guess. Anyhow, what the heck am I? Why the heck am I talking about that? I got a few minutes to my next stream. um, oh, because Rick asked me about buying a Pen F2, and I went into that whole dissertation. Uh, Thomas Zazaska says, Alka Reyes, Rob was talking about the Olympus W can. Oh, yeah, yeah, the wide converter. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't be more specific. I do have a video on the wide converter uh, that you can watch. Elka, if you're still here, let me find that for you real quick. It's about the wide converter for if you are interested in that option. It's episode number 97. So here's my video on the wide converter for the kit lens. If you're interested, Alka. uh, okay. And I lost my place again. Oh my goodness, thank you, Ulf. I appreciate that. Let's see. That was very generous of you. Thank you. I lost my place here. We both need a Pen F2. I know. So that was the question from Ulf, and Rick and Arthur. Oh, Arthur, hey, how are you? Arthur McPhee has been a viewer of mine or follower, whatever you want to call it. He's been he's been on my channel a long, long time, and he has a terrific Instagram. If you like, particularly if you like black and white photography. I mean, he does color time to time, but his black and white photography is amazing, and it's really inspired me to go out and shoot black and white more. So you can search for his Instagram just with the screen name you see here, Arthur McPhee. Definitely check that out. Commodore Photography. No, just Robin. Oh, okay. Your name is Robin. Okay, got it. I'll have to talk to Robin actually. And Jimmy Chang's Christmas show is funny and has a giveaway. Yeah, I missed it. I gotta watch it. And Arthur says, I just hope it will have a flip screen. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't need an articulating screen. I wish they put a mic jack in it though. I guess it's not that important. I got a camera with mic jacks now. Buy Ellie a Pen F2 for Christmas, sure. And then Ulf says, later today, Olympus Sweden has a Zoom meeting where we meet Tom Ohm and use the M1X to do black and white art. Oh, okay. Let me cut and paste his name out so that I have it. Thomas something. I can't pronounce that. Larson. All right, good. Let me add this as a temporary bookmark, and then I'll come back to it. Okay, thanks, Ulf. I'll definitely check that out. Rick Bear, Rob has no credentials as an educator, just that he's the #1 guy for Olympus How to Training on the internet. Oh, thank you. And then Marcia says, you are in charge of your life. Very few people can say that. Yeah. And Arthur says, I'd never for sure trade my life. I know, right? 10-minute alert. I know. I'll get there. Roberto says, same. 49 single, just me and the dog. I know, right, Roberto? And we even got the same first name. We're like, you're my brother from another mother, is what they say. My brother from another mother. um, and then Mark Wolf says, never too late, Uncle Rob. I know someone who's in his late 60s and just fathered a kid. I don't know if I could do that. I mean, you know, so you're like 80 years old when he's in college. Wow, I could not imagine trying to raise a little baby right now, even at my age. I'm only 54, and having to deal with the hours and energy to do that. Wow. You know, it'd be crazy though. It's not going to happen. If I had some illegitimate child somewhere, and they come up to my door and they say, "Dad," I'm like, "What?" Mike says, you're a great teacher. I would totally lost in the menu system. Oh, if I haven't watched for your videos, Olympus or JP should hire you to teach videos again. Thanks again. Oh, you're welcome, Mike. I'm glad I could help. You know, like I said, sometimes my videos connect well with some people. Uh, and you know, we all have our different way of teaching. Because I think Robin and Jimmy, Peter, they're all excellent teachers as well. But I focus really on the very, very beginner that has no idea what a camera looks like, you know, like never touched a camera before. So it's kind of a small niche that I think a lot of channels miss. They jump right into the features and text of the specs of the camera, but never show you how to use it. And it's no wonder people are not switching from their cell phone to a regular camera, because it's a little intimidating, right? You see all those buttons on a camera, and you know, what are they all for? Why can't I just take a picture? And then, you know, you put the camera in auto mode or program mode, and it's like, well, this is no better than my cell phone. And of course it's not. You know, cell phones do a great job in program mode. But anyhow, that's enough of that. And I know I'm going to start my next stream a few minutes late. I just want to catch up here. Pen F2 could be out in March, perhaps. Wow, that would be nice. Need to start saving my pennies. Mark Wolf wants a used Pen F. So if a Pen F2 comes out, it should push the price down of a regular Pen F. Maybe. That remains to be seen. The problem is the Pen F2 is being made by coming out from JIP, even though it may have been developed at Olympus originally. They don't develop a camera overnight, but it's gonna be under the new company name, so it doesn't have sort of that, I don't know, it doesn't have that same feel or legacy like, you know, like this Pen F I know was made by Olympus, under Olympus management, yada yada. So in the back of my head, you know, it has a little more value than, say, you know, when the new OMs come out. It's not the same. It just doesn't feel the same. And that's the thing about photography and, you know, used gear is, you know, there's a lot to the legacy of a camera that can drive the price up. Of course, rarity and uniqueness, but also legacy, right? That add value to a camera. And so the Pen F2, the original Pen F, the price may not come down. It may go up, as a matter of fact. If it turns out to be rare, unique, and people want it. So there's got to be demand for the camera, first of all. Then it's got to be unique. And then it's got to be some legacy to it. So, you know, a lot of things kind of need to be in place. And I think the Pen F, the original Pen F, has a lot of those characteristics to be, you know, collectible camera. You know, the fact that it's digital kind of takes a little bit off, an edge off of that, because it can't be really repaired once it breaks. But that didn't make, you know, like if you look at the Contax T2 film camera, those are still very desirable and prices are just going up on those. But if the electronics break on it, yeah, it's a problem, right? Okay, I need to go to my next stream. So, nice to see me wearing a sweater. Yeah, this is one of my favorite sweaters. I got it at Goodwill. Another benefit of being single is you can shop at Goodwill and your wife is not going to tell you, you know, are you going to go out like that? You're not wearing that, are you? Right? Okay, so thanks again, everybody, for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. I really had a good time. I always look forward to this. It's the highlight of my day. I'm going to start my photo editing live stream now, so hopefully we'll see a lot of you over there. But either way, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys back on Thursday.